Welcome to the Daikin 1 commissioning guide. Today we're going to do a quick review of the Daikin 1 thermostat and the commissioning process. The Daikin 1 thermostat offers two-way communication when combined with the smart inverter HVAC systems. Any communicating equipment can also use the Daikin 1. It includes the two-speed outdoor equipment, the 16, the 17, the 18, and the 20. First, we'll review the thermostat itself. It's got a large physical dial on the right. As you turn it clockwise, it'll raise the temp, counterclockwise, lower the temp. Pushing the center of the dial button at any time during a normal cycle acts as the home button and returns to the home screen pictured here. It does have a high resolution touchscreen on the left, and the bottom icons, 5 icons in the top corner in the right is a menu button. Using those 6 items, you navigate through the thermostat. The Daikin 1 does use messaging. The Daikin 1 message updates, confirms, and informs about the selections you make. 4 types of messaging. We have the status, heating, cooling, reminders and prompts, and those can be scheduled. Learning and tips, edit the schedule, learn more, little I for information. And the bright yellow one, the alerts. When something goes wrong, it will have a yellow message letting them know that the unit's operational or not operational and requires attention. Alerts have priority over all other messages, and they will appear on the screen ahead of all the other messages. Included in your thermostat is a reference card. You'll see a QR code in the bottom left corner. If you scan this code, it will take you to a website showing you everything we review today in the way of the menu breakdown in a PDF format. Also on that website, yours available are the homeowner's PDF and a PDF file for the installer. So if you need to know how to get back into the setup menu and you can't recall today's discussion, it is available on the QR code. To start, we're looking at the valid system configurations. Any communicating air handler, EV coil on top of a blower, a furnace, communicating outdoor units. So any of the heat pumps or air conditioning that communicate, or we can do a non-communicating single stage condenser. And this is if we want full control of a communicating furnace, maybe zoning, and we just want the air conditioner to be basic, or we're doing an install where we'll do the furnace and the Daikin 1 and use the existing condenser and return in the future to do an outdoor inverter or two-speed unit. Wiring the thermostat, we have 4 new connections, auxiliary 1 in and out, auxiliary 2 in and out. And we have the data 1 and 2 and the CR. Now the equipment is all labeled 1, 2, RC. And coming up to the thermostat, we'll have to reverse those wires for the CR. Most commonly, we're still using the 18-4 or larger wire that was existing in the home, and the red wire goes to R. So it's really more difficult to confuse, but the polarity is important. So make sure the R does go to the R. When working on one of these systems, keep in mind the data 1 and 2 is our data communication, and we'll look for 0.6 volts DC between 1 and 2. And from 1 to common and 2 to common, we should exceed DC volts of 2.0. If we're getting below 2.0, we may have to turn some data filters off. Please reference the installation in the service portion, or give us a call and we'll walk you through it. 2 paths to commission, a quick and a full setup. We do not recommend the quick setup at any time. It's an emergency case. You put in a 2-speed unit. You want to get everything running full speed while you do some cleanup or do other things, or maybe cool off the home if it's a complete necessity. The commissioning workflow uses the auto discovery process to identify equipment in the home. So when you do put it on, it may take up to 20 minutes to discover all the equipment. It will communicate. It will keep reaching out and looking over the network for any other equipment. It also checks an internal database. So when you go to install the system, if there's a mismatch, it tells you we have a system mismatch and this will not operate. Commissioning, this is the commission screen you're going to see. You also have the option to learn more. That'll take you in the demo modes. But most often when you get to the screen, you're going to want to go to the begin full setup. And when we go to begin full setup, we're going to see the personalization, communication, equipment setup. system optimization, and the preferences. And here's a screenshot of those. The very first one, personalization, allows us through the language, date and time, device name, and units for measurement of temperature. Keep in mind, if we skip number 1 and go to number 2 and set up the Wi-Fi connection, the time and date are automatically set. It will go out and find. Now, there are rare conditions when it goes out to the hub and it puts you in a different time zone, and that's the responsibility of the internet provider. That connection to the home for the internet is sending the signal of which time zone it's in. The communication tab is an important tab. That's where we'll set up the Wi-Fi. It's important to set up the Wi-Fi quickly as possible. Maybe very first thing when it comes on, it will reach out to Daikin and do a system update right away. Within the first 20 minutes of being booted up and the Wi-Fi operational, it'll reach out to Daikin and you'll have the newest version. If you're going to be in an area where you do not have Wi-Fi, you can hotspot to your phone as well. Very small data packet to update it. When you do make a connection, keep in mind you must be password protected. Equipment setup tab. This is the one that you may not do immediately, you may return to, but we'll go over all of these. Here's where we'll find our configuration of our cool, heat pump, humidifier, relay connections, heater kits, and all our fine-tuning of our equipment. System optimization. This is done for inverters only. If you're installing a FIT or a 20 or an 18, anything with an inverter, you must run system optimization or you'll get an E11 code. You will have an E11 pop up on the screen and on the outdoor screen as well. And you'll have to allow it to go through the system optimization to remove the E11 code. You'll also see charge mode on this screen. This allows the inverter to run at a stable rate, high speed, although it may seem it goes from medium to medium, high to high. It is a stable state and allows you to check the subcooling. So you can connect to it and look at the subcooling, but only in the charge mode. Keep in mind when you enter charge mode, you should have the system off. Should not be operating heating or cooling. And then enter charge mode. It will run on its own for an hour and leave charge mode, but it will return to the system off. So if you are completed with checking your subcooling and you want to turn the cooling back on, you'll have to go in and exit the charge mode and go back into cooling. When you do the run test, it'll take 5 to 15 minutes. When the thermostat is done, the E11 code will go away from the outdoor unit and the thermostat will return to this mode. Again, the charge mode allows 1 hour. The refrigerant charging system via the suction port outside, and it will stop after completion. Optional tests. We have a list of optional tests. If you have a 2-speed unit, here's where you can go test your cooling and hit run test. This is not for inverters. This is only for the 2-speed unit or a 1-speed outdoor unit. On this screen for optimization, we also have status. The status is multiple screens. It allows you to view outdoor air temp, coil temp, heat exchanger temp, indoor coil temp, liquid temp, suction temp, the pressures, the mode, the percentage of operation, the percentage of fan operation, the percentage of dehumidification, the revolutions per second of the compressor, and the outdoor fan. All the information that can be critical to troubleshooting is available to you here. You can calculate the superheat off of this screen. At any point, if you're having issues and you do not have a D-checker and you do not have a laptop connected to the equipment recording, you can do some screenshots of this screen. This is not a live screen. When you go to status, it's going to pull the data in and report it on a screen. If you have a time period which went by, you might want to leave this screen, go back and re-enter status to get some updated numbers. Last thing on our list is preferences. Although it's not critical anything here gets changed, you should at least enter the dealer information. There are a few things in here you do want to look at, but dealer information should be updated. You also have your reminders here. We've added the new reminder for service, 12 to 24 month settings, where you can every 12 months have your name a number come up and say, please contact us for service. It's been 12 months. Again, here's an example of entering the dealer information. These are your reminders. You can set them. We do have the service reminder, which is a customized one. If you report that you have a humidifier and you report how many pads you have on the humidifier, it's going to set up a reminder. So keep in mind, if you want the reminders to be disabled, make sure you take a look here, make sure they're switched off. And that's 1 through 5. At the very bottom, we'll see complete setup. When we push complete setup, we'll leave and we'll go to system in off mode, which is the main screen. At any time we need to re-enter our screen and make changes, let's say we want to go back in and set a humidifier relay, which we'll review at the end of the training. Just remember, we'll go to the menu and we'll go to the bottom 4 times. So here's an example of the homeowner screen. On the left there, you'll hit the menu button. You go to the bottom of the configuration, go to the bottom a second time and hit reset, go to the bottom a third time and hit dealer edit. You go to the bottom right for the 4th time and hit continue. At this point, it'll ask for your code. In the top right hand corner, you'll see the I for information. It'll display your code, and when you enter your code, you'll have an option of factory reset or install wizard. At this point, you want to go to install wizard. When away, the screensaver appears on the screen. When you walk near it, a proximity sensor identifies nearby object and will turn on the screen. If it doesn't, you can always push the home button. It will know you're present and go back to the home screen. An example of the home screen. When they navigate the home screen, they can slide their finger on the right there up and down to change the temperature. They can also go to the snowflake you see there in this case because it's in cooling mode. If you push that on the far left, it will take you to a screen where it will allow you to choose auto, cool, heat, off, and emergency heat if you have a heat pump installed. You also see at the bottom of the screen the 5 icons. The home is displayed in the center of the screen. The second icon will display the adjustment. That icon is for dial. It's a circle. And you can use your finger to slide up and down on the cool. If the cool and heat are both present because you're in auto mode, it will slide them together and keep them split apart in the whatever you have programmed for the offset. The third one is a calendar. The calendar is for scheduling, and you'll see in the center of the screen there the very visual. This is where my schedule's set. When you touch that screen, it will go to the screen shown on the right, which lists the days individually and shows you your awake time, your sleep time, your leave times, and allows you to change the temperature of each one of those times. You can copy that day from one of the next. So if you did a Monday through Saturday, you can program Monday once, copy them all the way through Saturday, and then you can do Sunday on its own. The 4th icon is a leaf for eco, and it's the away screen. This allows you to see an away temperature. At any point you're leaving the home, you can set the thermostat to away. You can do it from your phone. Just push the away on your phone. You can also tie this to geofencing. So a multitude of phones can be used in the home. As long as they have the app and they're set up on the system, when all the phones are out of your geo-fenced radius that you have set, it will go into away mode automatically. Air quality is the last one. You'll see the 4 little lines for airflow. You'll see the indoor air appear. That's done from the thermostat. The outdoor air is done from the Wi-Fi. It does not go outside and find the humidity. It does it from the weather station. So you have to be connected to Wi-Fi in order to see that. And I have had people mention to me it doesn't appear immediately. So in your first hour, you may not have the outdoor temperature. It will appear eventually. The circulate air button is on the bottom there. That allows us to choose our always on. Allows us to choose our manual, our circulate, which will run 20 minutes every hour. It also allows us to choose fan speed. So at this point we can do low, medium, and high, and when we go into our menu we can trim those rates as well to fine tune every one of those separately. In the top right you'll see the menu button. That allows the screen to show quite a few things for the customer. Configurations normally will go to on the bottom, but allows them to do their system mode. They can do their heat and cool from that point. They can adjust their display. It allows you to adjust the cool bar and the heat bar, the little glow bar that appears at the bottom of the screen. It allows the screensaver adjustment, the brightness of the screen. The proximity sensor can be switched on and off at that point. The third one down is the schedule. It can also be done by using the icon. The away mode can also be done by using the icon. And the air quality can be done by using the icon. And the one I skipped there, the underlined one, is comfort. This is where they're going to enter to set the humidification and dehumidification level. So if you have a humidifier, this is where they'll set it. If you switch on the dehumidification function or you add an external dehumidifier, that's where you'll do the adjustment for the actual setting. When they connect their app, guys, this is done between them and Daikin, but they can download the Daikin One Home. It will ask for passwords in their email and allow them to set a password on their phone. If they ask you for assistance, you can walk them through, but this is something what we'd normally let them do on their own. It will ask them a few questions when they create an account. It'll ask for their email. It will send them a verification code in their email, which they'll enter on their app on their phone, and that'll create the account. Then when they log in, it's going to ask them to go to the thermostat and get code. It'll walk them through it. It'll explain everything. If the code does not appear, if those 6 white boxes are white with no numbers, you'll have to cycle the power to the unit. It's extremely rare it happens, but cycling the power will cause the code to come up. At that point, it will tie the Daikin One thermostat with the phone app. And this is what they'll see. Their phone will be a duplicate what's on the screen. The only thing you cannot do from the phone is enter the configuration screen where we enter. But everything else can be done exactly as it is on the thermostat. All right, this is our 1 through 5 menu. When we're done setting up the system and we've ran the system test from the optimization screen and it finished and we hit exit, did our cleanup, did our talking to the customer, now we want to fine tune the system, or you're on a service call and you want to go in the system and look at some stuff, this is where we do it. We'll go to the bottom 4 times, we'll enter full setup, and we'll see 1 through 5 on the screen. Personalization, communication, equipment setup, system optimization, and our preferences. The personalization is where we have the language, date and time, thermostat name and degree, Fahrenheit or Celsius. Remember, the date and time will be automatically set by the Wi-Fi. So if you skip this section, you can use the default name. It will default to Fahrenheit and default to English for the language. Section 2 is the communication. The equipment type will default to unitary, and this is where we'll set up the home Wi-Fi. Tab 3 is the equipment setup. It will start with the specifications, including the model and serial number. On some of the units, we may see the serial number not appear, and on the coils, we may see no model number, but the serial number appear. Some of the older boards just do not report the serial number. Under cool settings, we'll have our airflow trim for low speed, intermediate speed, and high speed. So when you go to the fan and turn it on, all 3 settings can be trimmed on this screen. We still have our A, B, C, D profiles for dehumidification or for ramping of the blower. Keep in mind your inverter is not going to cycle 3 to 6 times an hour. So this ramping will occur, but it may only occur once or twice an hour. We have our delays on and off, and they do factory default. We do have our minimum compressor revolutions per second, and our offset, I suggest we leave that unless we have an issue. We do have the dehumidification right here. So if you decide you want to dehumidify with cooling, you can switch it on under the cool settings. Heat pump has the same information and has the same settings for the cooling section of the heat pump. Under the heat pump portion of the settings, we'll have our heat airflow on delay or off delay, and we'll have our defrost interval. The defrost interval is set for 30, 60, 90, or 120 in minutes. And keep in mind, if you set it for 60, that's 60 total minutes of runtime when the defrost sensor is under 32 degrees. Our defrost compressor delay can be set in seconds if we have a whooshing sound or a abnormal sound, a noise that may bother the customer when it's going from heating to cooling. We can set the delay where we can move the reversing valve and bring on the compressor separately where we won't get the whoosh sound. Our defrost heat we can set for always on, always off, or we can tell it when to run the defrost heat. Keep in mind, this ship's in the off position for efficiency. You want the defrost heat to be able to run the temper the defrost. You'll have to turn that on. The heat pump settings continued. Here's where we'll see our heat pump lockout, which is the check box you'll have to check and choose what temperature to lock out your heat pump on. Keep in mind we do have limitations right now mattering on the line set lengths. You're going to want to lock that out at 15 degrees if you have a long line set length. We also have the auxiliary heat lockout, so it'll disable the auxiliary heating system above the temperature you set. So if you set it for 60, that's heat pump only from 60 and above, the auxiliary will stay locked out, including during defrost mode. Under the furnace setting, we have our heat settings here for the gas and heat airflow trim, the gas heat on delay and off delay. We'll also see our heat CFM taps here, A, B, C, D, or 1, 2, 3, 4, mattering on your schedule in your book. It does default on 2. At any point your customer feels it is too hot or too cold, you can go in and do trim rates using your trim, or you can set your heat CFM taps. This normally would have been done on the dip switches, and now it's done at the Daikin 1 thermostat. So it doesn't auto set a CFM for you. You have to decide where you want it. My best suggestion is to always do a delta T when you do an install, and if you're very comfortable with the temperature rise, that means the setting is fine. We also have the humidifier relay located in the furnace on the board. We'll have to switch it on here, and we'll have to tell it when to humidify or what our fan speed is at this point. If you have an air handler or blower, we'll have to go in and we'll have to go to the heater kit, and we'll have to tell it we have a heater kit and what size the heater kit is. We can set our electric heat trim and our delays on electric heat. We also have a humidifier relay, which is new to the FEC air handler. You will not see this on the PEC, but you will on the FEC. You can do the humidifier relay, enable it with blower or humidification mode and fan speed. So with blower, it will operate when the blower's on. With humidification mode, it'll force the blower on. That's something you want to use on, let's say, a steam humidifier. We do have the Add Equipment tab. Here's where you'll add your humidifier if you want to use auxiliary contacts. At any point, if you turn on your humidifier with the furnace or air handler and you are having trouble seeing it on the screen or making a change, you can add the equipment here and put the humidifier under auxiliary 1. And if, as long as it's switched on under the furnace or air handler, it will enable both sets of contacts and all your settings will be visible. We also have the zone board addition here. Here's what we'll tell it. We'll have a zone board. It will recognize the EWC board being down in the basement. The EWC board will be in charge of the heat pump lockouts and the zone sizing. But when we choose zone board, we'll check the box for telling it that this is the master thermostat or this is the zone 2 or 3 thermostat. So when using the Daikin 1 thermostat, all zones must be Daikin 1, and we must tell it which zone we are. Again, when adding a 24-volt AC condenser, we'll see that under settings, we'll have to go in and we'll have to set the tonnage. When we set the tonnage of the outdoor unit, it will automatically set it for 400 cubic feet per ton. And it'll allow us all the cool settings. So we'll have all the ramping available to us and all the trim rates available to us as well. System optimization. This will be the important one when you take it out of the box. You'll visit this later, but when you're out of the box, this is your primary screen. So remember, we have our start. This is we'll do our system test. You cannot test an inverter under optional test when it's new. It has to go under system test. Our second one is charge mode. When we're done doing our system test and we want to check subcooling, or if you're on a service call and you want to look at the subcooling, that's done under optimization for charge mode. Please check it there and not under the cooling optional test. But you do have the capability here to run the gas heat, to check your delta T, to run the electric heat, which is especially nice on a heat pump. Right now we don't have a droop setting in the system, so if you want to run backup, it has to be done in here, or you have to wait for a delay, a time period of which the home loses temperature before the backup comes on. We can also force defrost here. Keep in mind when you go to an optional test and force defrost, you're accelerating the timing of the 30, 60, 90, 120. So you still have to have a coil under 32 degrees. So if you're on a, let's say, a real estate inspection and it's 50 outside and you do not have a coil under 32, and you can check that under status, and we'll look at that in a moment. But you can force the defrost, but it's not going to go in the defrost because you're not under 32 degrees. All you do with forced defrost is accelerate the time. You'll have error history. Here's where you can go in. You will have an E11 error out of the box. So you can go in here and you can remove the E11 error. If you did your work properly, that E11 error should have a timestamp on it, or it may be so quick out of the box you didn't have an opportunity and it won't have a timestamp. But if you clear the error in the future, no one will get confused by it. The very last thing in the section 4, system optimization, is our status. We discussed this earlier. This will show what our outdoor fan, RPM, air temperature, coil temperatures, liquid line temperatures, or indoor fan. It also shows a requested demand and an actual demand. So you'll see we might be requesting 100, the unit might be running at 75%. This will let us know if we have a issue with a defrost sensor. This will show us what operation mode we're in. If we're in an oil return mode, where the unit might be running full speed for oil return, might show us a defrost mode. But here's where we have all of our information. If at any point you're having issues, I highly suggest you go to status and look, or do some screenshots in this section. Get that off to us. We'll also see cool heat under preferences. And here's what we'll do, our minimum and maximum set points. Here's where we'll find our dead band if we're set on auto instead of manual changeover. And our dehumidification overcool. Keep in mind, if you have turned on dehumidification, under high humidity conditions, we are slowing the fan down, but when it meets demand for the thermostat, it shuts off. This allows it to overshoot your demand if you still have high humidity present. Once it meets humidity demand, it goes back to the set point and will not overshoot. We'll also find our boost mode. We'll be able to turn our boost mode on and off at this point, and we'll be able to turn it on with an activation temperature, saying I want it to run full speed, all out, anytime it's over 100 degrees. And this is the spot where you'll do that. Under house settings is where we're going to find our quiet mode. If you check the box, you can do a start and stop time. Let's say you want to run it at night. We have very little solar gain at night, so your house isn't as hot, so we might not need capacity, so we allow it to run to level 3. Keep in mind, when you run the fan and compressor that low, you can lose capacity. So if you do set to level 3 and you lose capacity, as long as your capacity priority is switched to the on position, it will ignore the call for quiet mode and go back to full capacity. We also will see our size of home, which should be used for the IAQ portion, and we'll see vertical rise. The vertical rise will be set in the future. It will monitor where the indoor coil is at. So if it's far below the outdoor unit, it will know it needs to do oil return more often. If it sits above, it'll do the oil return less often. Our reminders all fit in here as well. We can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, or 12 months. For our media or HEPA or electronic filters, UV bulbs, dehumidification filter, humidifier. Added now, we have a service reminder. and then we can do a custom reminder at 1 to 24 months. And please, the dealer information is important. I'd like to see you put that in. And that's the Daikin 1 thermostat. Remember, at any point, if you scan that QR code, that 1 through 5 menu we just went through is on the website and is updated. If they do make changes for a new piece of equipment, it will appear on the updated version on the website. You can always contact us here at Johnstone. We'll be happy to get you the information. Thank you very much for your time.